You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network. Visit pencilandpaperproductions.podbean.com to find more great podcasts.
Welcome to the Palace of Megapixels. This is Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. I'm your host, Stephen White. With me, as always, my co-host, Lacey Finley.
Oh, well, happy Monday.
And joining us this week in the Palace of Megapixels is the chief editor of articles for the video game preservation website Gaming Alexandria. As an independent game researcher and historian, he has started his own blog site, The History of How We Play, in 2016 that features numerous stories about video game industry, such as a much more thorough history about the ownership of Periscope, that thing I talked about a couple of weeks back.
Right.
He's also an advisor on the upcoming documentary Arcade Dreams that will chronicle 100 years of arcade history. Let that sink in for a minute.
Oh, wow, right?
100 years.
How long it's been around.
So please welcome Ethan Johnson.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Come on in.
We are so glad to have you here, and on a historic day, mind you, because, Lace, I think I may have shared this with you, and I'm going to share it with everyone now.
Okay.
Ethan, I don't know if you know this, but you were on the podcast that is trending very well in Slovakia right now.
Oh, my.
I don't know where we got this, but I was informed that we are 95 in Slovakia.
Yeah. So is that good or bad? I'm not sure. I understand the stats, but
I don't
how
either.
many out of how many? I
Hey,
guess.
my blog actually gets a lot of hits in Russia, believe it or not. So.
Hey.
We're doing something right.
Eastern Europe is just hungry for this kind of stuff.
Hey, you find your audience. You know what I mean? It's like
Whether or not they can understand you.
Right.
Yeah, we're only hoping that they get the gist of what we're doing here.
I have more faith other countries learn other languages than we do
Right.
here, so they probably understand us just fine.
So to all the Slovakians out there, welcome.
Welcome.
I didn't know you were here.
However many of you made us 95 on the list of how many, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know how long the list is,
But hey, it's the Apple Podcast trending site. So I mean, that's big. You know, if you're trending on Apple in Slovakia. Anyway. No, I just want.
we're not making fun of y'all. Like,
No,
it's
we're
just-
not. It was just an odd email
I
to
don't
get.
understand, yeah.
There's just some guy named Carlos, which doesn't
Maybe.
really trend as a Slovakian name, sent me an email saying, hey, guess what's happening in Slovakia? And I'm like, what? You're trending. Oh,
What?
wow.
What's happening?
Okay. Excellent.
me.
So, I mean, I'm okay with it.
Hey,
If we're
you know.
trending somewhere, I'm good with it.
Welcome on in.
Appreciation is appreciated.
Exactly.
So, Ethan, one question we always love to start the show off with, especially with our guest, what have you been playing?
Well, I tried to get some more gaming in, so I would actually have something to talk about. But
Fair.
as it was, pretty much all that I was able to play is my friend and I were getting back into Overwatch, and I know everybody's going, you know, the lame dead game and all that, but I've always enjoyed it, and we were kind of doing it in anticipation of Overwatch 2, which they've
Right.
started to preview and everything. So getting a feel back for the game, and we'll probably play Overwatch 2, and also Diablo 2 Remastered when that comes out.
Yeah.
So, bit of that, and I guess you could say I played some Seinfeld-style real-life Frogger yesterday. Well,
glad you made it.
as the Puerto Rican Day celebrations here in Chicago. We're coming across the street, and I had to go and get something. So I had to weave across all these cars. There are people doing speed run, like, you know, just zooming across the thing as the streets were semi-empty on one side and then completely gridlocked on the other side. So yeah, that was an experience.
So one side was a little easier to navigate than the other. It was just like, once I come out from behind this parked car, it's on.
Yep.
Let's see. I was stupid and tried to go to the DMV yesterday like that was going to work. So I made the trip out just to have them tell me, oh yeah, it's too long. We stopped taking people. And I'm like, you close in 3 hours. Okay. It was a fun drive, though. It was a nice day out.
I mean, at least look at the positive of that, right?
Right? I mean, it was a nice day. I got out of the house. What can you say?
It's funny. There's nothing fictional about the what's the word I'm looking for here?
Fictional about the what?
The horror of the DMV?
Yeah, there you go. There was another word I was looking for, but yeah, that'll work.
And then now, you know, make it times a million because nobody's been able to really do anything at the DMV because of, you know, gestures broadly to 2020. So now there's like all of us trying to do it whenever it's open. I'm like, well, this is never going to happen. Oh, well, I think I'm just going to drive out to the burbs. Don't tell anyone my secrets. I think I'm just going to have to go that far just to make sure I can be in and out in a reasonable amount of time.
Just sad, but do what you got to do, I suppose.
I mean, there's a lot of us and, you know, it's been closed half off and on over and over.
I guess on the flip side, at least you have options. I only have one in my town. That's it. So you've got to take a gamble.
Just depends on how far you want to go. I'm willing, though. 45-minute drive to not be in a line for 3 hours? Fine. Fine. Whatever it takes. Anyway, Gabes.
Games.
That's what we do here.
This isn't the DMV podcast?
There's probably some game out there.
Probably.
I mean, Papers, Please is basically the experience of the DMV.
Oh, God, yes.
DMV, right.
Lace, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I actually dove into something a little bit different, a new one. Our good friends over at the Abnormals developing team put out a demo this week for their next game, Frank and Drake. So I played the demo for that. A lot of fun. I'm intrigued by it. And there's no wall puzzle. So that should be nice for a lot of people. And Yaki, don't hate me, but, you know, we have to talk about that. But so it's a point and click story game this time. I mean, I guess kind of like how their last one was too. You can tell it's going to be a lot more. Their usage of time, man. Their usage of time. It was a little bit more interesting because you could tell even on their menu screen when you were hovering towards one side, you know, the light and the dark. And then they kind of set it up for the two characters that they end up having to share a rented space. And his schedule is day, hers is night. And so you're just kind of learning the story of this around those two night cycles. Now, the demo is only like a portion of one day. So just kind of like just a nice little amuse-bouche, if you will, of what you're going to be
in the industry
into.
They call that the vertical slice.
There you go. But I took forever in it. It took me like an hour and a half because I wanted to poke around and see, and of course I wanted to play again to see. There was a lot locked, so the couple of choices that weren't, I'm like, will it change anything? Because it looks like the meter for this one is how close you can bring Frank and Drake together. Is what it's appearing like, and then you live it out in a 7-day period, but you got like half of the first day. I don't know. I recommend going and checking it out. It probably wouldn't take you nearly as long to get through the demo. I was just poking through everything because I kind of know how their minds work now. I'm like, where could be clues? What's going to happen later? So I'm even doing like the crossword puzzle, which is probably like a throwaway game within the game, but I wanted to finish it, and so it took me a long time. But, and then I just played 2 Point Hospital.
Again.
I've gotten to the point where if you're just going to come into my hospital and die, I'm just going to send you home. You're screwing my numbers. We can't be having this. I'm sorry. I'm trying to build more, and you need to give me money, and I cannot build any more of these things if you just keep coming in and dying and taking all of my people away to take care of you on the floor.
And now you understand the difficulties of the medical profession.
Right? I'm telling you. 100% I could be a hospital admin now. No joke. Hands down. Fire you if you don't learn it.
Oh.
I had to get brutal. There's people dying all over the place. You get tired of hearing that ding, ding, ding every time someone dies. And so when it gets crowded, oh my God, like I'm losing my mind. So I just pause it and I'll go through the lobby and I'll just send them all home if they're like hurting too bad.
Sounds like you need to build another morgue.
I don't have the money yet. You guys, I'm trying to build more stuff. I'm trying to get more staff. I just have to wait. You have to use the services here first. But what about you? So we talked about how awful of a hospital admin I'd make in the virtual world.
Still Assassin's Creed. Reaching the 90-hour mark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because they tell you when you save the game, and I was like, 90 hours? I've been playing this for 90 hours.
90 saved hours.
90 saved hours, that's true. So, I'm getting there. You know, half the map looks kind of clean, whereas the other half is still there. And it's like, so if it took me 90 hours to get half of it, and that's not even the complete half, because I still went to Asgard. I even went to another world, which I feel like they didn't specify. Maybe if I knew my lore in Assassin's Creed just a little bit better, I'm sure there's a dot connection somewhere. But I went to a place they called Vinland, which there's a lot of history if you want to get into that. But it's America, pretty much.
Okay. Newfoundland.
And yeah. So you run into like a tribe of natives, and I was curious. I was like, so I wonder if they're kind of like the lineage from Connor from Part 3. Don't know. Don't have any. I think there was an artifact, like an orb that I found.
Is there a through line? I guess for characters, or
I don't know. It's so loosely connected, but you can kind of maybe possibly look at that. I didn't see anything direct to say absolutely, that's it. Except for maybe the orb at the end that I found, like when I was there. And it was like, oh, there's an orb, and oh, there's a big door, and this is part of the whole Templar plot. And I was thinking maybe, I don't remember the game all that right off the top of my head.
They got rid of that overarching story pretty much. Like it's still there technically, but like the idea that you're going back through this guy's ancestry and whatnot, they just stopped caring about that after like Assassin's Creed 3.
Okay, then that would make sense, because I was going to say like 4 seemed to be the one that deviated the most. When that's the one with pirates, right? That was Black Flag, right? Yeah.
Still, even if it was like a loose thread, it was kind of neat because like, okay, it wasn't a big
throwback.
map. Yeah, because it wasn't a big map or anything like that. It was just like this small little world. It was very simple. My whole mission going there was just to off someone. So it was like, find him, kill him, get out. Cool. Yeah. And that's what I did.
Nice.
But, yeah, I'll probably be playing this game for a couple of more months. But we'll get there. I'll get there eventually.
We'll throw you some little ones in the between there to break up.
But you know I don't do that. I have to finish what I started.
You're good like that. I could have so many started and then wonder why when I start to save that I have no idea what's going on anymore. Yeah.
You're going to have a celebration podcast when you get done with this game.
Right?
Yeah.
We will. This might be going on one of the longer ones.
It is. I'd say The Witcher 3 was another one I remember playing a long period because I played the full portion of the game and then all the subsequent DLCs that went along with it, like the complete edition. And I felt like that took a while, but I don't remember how many saved hours I had. So
we'll have to look.
Could be. I would say it was over 100 for sure. But
those are peasant numbers.
Yeah.
I know. Around here, it's like you brag about it. It's like, well, actually.
You're not a true gamer if you play like this.
Right. If you play it the right way, it would take you 496 hours.
So I could chronicle every hour that I've played of Assassin's Creed, but Lace, why don't we talk about some news?
We got
I
a
know
little
you've
bit
got
of
some.
things. Yeah, we got a little bit of things to discuss.
E3.
Yeah, well, there was some E3 stuff going on. It seemed like we pretty much had just finished kind of wrapping up what was going to get announced. And I want to say one of the only really new ones out of E3 Game Fest, you know me, I'm going to get them confused because, of course, we had to have them at the exact same time, is the Nintendo Direct, which, of course, came a couple days after our last podcast came out last Monday. So, hey, we got a nice little 40-ish, a little bit longer than that minute, where they were covering over some things. How excited was everyone for the new console, huh?
Ooh, yeah, what happened with that?
Oh, I was expecting so much hoorah about that the next day or that day or whatever. So I guess it's still just floating in the interwebs right now.
They don't want to drop it when people expect it. You can't.
Yeah,
that's probably fair.
You can't be. Nintendo can't be the ones that are just following the usual track, no matter what.
I've said it before on this show. I think every time there's an expectation, Nintendo's like, get it off the table. Just take it away. So we're not going to do that. And
I like that. I don't want to just go into something knowing what's going to happen.
I know. And that's why I think I get so pissed off at leakers. It's like, do you guys not enjoy just having that reveal, sitting down to not knowing what's going on? It's like you got to stay off the internet till you've learned all the things you want to learn about a thing first, and then you can go on. But we did get 40 minutes worth with some big announcements going on in there, depending on who you are, what you may or may not be excited for, of course. It's all situational. New Metroid.
Yep, they front-loaded very
right?
good.
Yeah.
Dread looks just fantastic.
And people seem to be pretty excited for this. It looks like it's a direct sequel. Mm-hmm. Came out, obviously, however many years later now we're looking at this one. So, direct sequel to Metroid's Fusion. So it's supposed to be the end of the saga between Samus and the Metroids.
I don't like that.
I mean, it took a while in the making, so we'll see. But, I mean, we're looking... October 8th was what they put down for a release date for that. I take every release dates with a grain of salt.
Birthday gift.
Ooh, that's true. It's like, what, the day before, ain't it? Isn't
Birthday
it?
gift.
Yeah,
Just
there
saying.
you go. If I remember about it coming around at that time. We're lucky
What
if
good
I remember
friends.
a week before. I know. I'm usually the one where I remember, like, the day before, and I'm like, shit! Hurry up! And then, I mean, I actually heard this one at work. The screams around the world. The Legend of Zelda. The Breath of the Wild 2 little peek that everyone... This was the one we were like, we're never seeing it. And then, see, you're right. They're like, well, I guess we'll show it off this time. Whereas, before. They tell you, of course, still have patience. They're letting you know it's still a ways away. But it did look like, 2022 release window. So now there's like a window.
Yeah. And they're usually pretty good about their release windows. They don't normally just casually drop a date.
Right.
They usually
That's
stick
true.
to it.
They're usually a little bit better about it for sure. So, I mean, you did get to see a little gameplay.
Yeah, that's
and
what
then,
I
of
was
course-
waiting for when, they're showing the cinematic elements and everything. Like, show me a little bit of what's going on. Okay, they did. Now, here's what I think might be exciting, depending on how they actually decide to do this. Some of my favorite sequels of all time are games where they give you all of the things you earned in the first game, like up front.
Yeah.
And he was using some of those hero powers and whatnot from the first game.
Right.
And if they do that and then just expand on what they have, then I'm gonna absolutely freak out because it's not very usual. Usually they do the classic Metroid thing of you get sapped of all your powers and everything. So I'm excited for that. I'm also excited for they're going with a kind of Skyward Sword structure to the game.
Yeah.
Where they have all these islands and everything. Well, Skyward Sword or Wind Waker, depending on the way you want to look at it. Wind Waker did it better. but so
Just as an aside.
yeah. So it gives them chances to have more directed gameplay as opposed to being entirely open, but you can still choose which way you're going to approach a problem. So I think that there is quite a bit of potential for more for more of the design to shine. Whereas
that's fair.
in Breath of the Wild, I think it was more, your abilities and your thinking kind of imposing on this world, which is kind of running in independently from you, which can be good in some ways. But I think it was also pretty well designed, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited for y'all. I know you really liked it.
I definitely saw the inspirations and kind of made me think that this is why they were releasing Skyward Sword, like an HD, because
Yep.
the first shot was him flying or falling out of the sky, and I was like, well, that explains it right there. So they're trying to get everybody hyped. So I'm excited for it. I mean, it took me a while before I got around to Breath of the Wild, but I got sucked in hard.
Yeah, I am that lone weirdo that didn't get sucked into it. I'm the opposite of the Corey, where I guess apparently OG Zelda or bust for me. That's because I loved the very, very first one, back in NES or whatever. Second one also started to lose me right away, like Link 2, the Zelda 2.
But that one's often maligned anyway, so I don't think you're alone in that.
That's true. And then I tried this one, man, and I tried for about 3 hours, something like that. And I just couldn't. I felt so sad. I wanted to love it. Everyone's loving it. Ugh. All right. Well, it's what makes the world go round, right? If we all like the same type of game, there'd be one game for everyone to play, and that would be it. But then their little handheld thing they wanted to talk about there, that could at least have the one on it that I enjoyed.
That's your birthday present.
There you go. When is it? Did I write down? Oh, yeah, that's November 12th, so a little bit later. But that's when they're showing. But it has the Legend of Zelda series 1 and 2 and Link's Awakening on a little handheld device, just preloaded with the aforementioned games, and it has a fun clock, which apparently was a selling point in the commercial for it. Was that?
It's a repeat of, it's a model of the Game & Watch. Which back in the day,
that's right.
you didn't used to have digital clocks. So actually that was a pretty good feature to have a timer and a digital clock, and you can play a game on it. So that...
Kids these days won't understand the struggle. Everything's got a clock on it for you.
Yeah.
And no hands. You don't even pay attention to that. But hey, that one looks fun. It looks like $50 is what they're asking for that little handheld. So there you go if you're a collector and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think it's neat. It's definitely not something I want, but it's definitely neat. And then the rest that I thought that they went through was more like remasters or things that were getting a Switch port, so not necessarily like anything new.
Hey, you didn't talk about Mario Golf, though.
That's true. I know that and the
sweet.
Mario Rabbids, but I guess they kind of already had that leaked from a showcase prior. Like Nintendo leaked their own thing before.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it was, they needed to wait 1 hour is all I remembered. It was 1 hour before the showcase was to go live, and they're tweeting about their game. But not everyone can be perfect, I guess. So... but yeah, what did the direct caught your eye that I didn't mention? Because I saw Life is Strange is also getting a nice little port, little pretty HD remaster to go over to it, which I enjoyed the first one, not so much the other one, but I haven't played the third. Is that the prequel? Is the third one?
No, that was the second.
Okay, whatever the latest one was. Not touched it even a little bit.
I don't know. There's too many at this point. But,
all right, well, I mean, speaking of more kind of E3-ish kind of stuff, I saw a little kerfuffle, and I thought it might be an interesting conversation. We'll see, maybe not. We could maybe wrap it up quick, but this whole exclusivity thing. There was a lot going on about how we're moving forward here, and we could see that most Zenimax games looks to be Microsoft, PC, Xbox, whatever you want to call it, exclusive. I mean, they paid $7.5 billion for the privilege, so I'm not surprised. As soon as it happened, I was like, this is probably Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? You just spent a huge
Well,
chunk of change.
You know, they did see the benefit of doing that for Minecraft, importing it to other systems.
Sure.
So I don't think that Microsoft is solely against it, but they do have strategies in regards to, you know, what sort of games are going to go that route. You know, I think that they might put some of these things as timed, but they're just not going to say that right now.
Sure. It looks like Bethesda might be the biggest heartbreak that I've seen most people, you know, now that's probably going to be, well, it is actually. He did come out and say, you know, basically like, you know, I don't have any say in this, guys, but it is what it is. And they're letting us know that with us being able to focus on just one specific console, we can create a much better product because now you're not trying to get it to work for a lot of different things. Now, this is what they're trying to say to you, so you will calm down. But I guess, like, I mean, I know it's easy for me to sit here because I kind of play both sides. Like, I have my PlayStation and I have my PC, and so far I've been able to get whatever game that's come out that I want to play. Mm-hmm. So I know it's easy for me to sit here and go, stop your whining, because, like, I've been in a pretty good seat because I'm a PC gamer. But is it really that ridiculous? Because PlayStation has done it for so long and well.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it stand to reason if you bought a developing team, you'd probably want them to make amazing games for your hardware?
Looking at my history of gaming, going way back to the original days, as a child,
Wee baby.
I was strictly Nintendo for the longest time. It wasn't until the Wii U hit that I decided to make a shift. So anytime all these other consoles were getting these exclusives, I was like, I want to play that. I want to play that. And all I had to do was go get the other console. You know, I knew that I was stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, I got exclusive games for Nintendo that they didn't get.
Right.
So I had to make a choice. It was like, do I stay here or do I go over here? And I can have both. I have both. But it was just a matter of, like, where do I want to, you know, plant my flag?
Right.
And that's what these people need to realize. If these are the games that you want, you're going to have to go over there.
Because I have said for a while that the one thing that I thought Xbox really needed to do was have console exclusive games, because PlayStation has done it for so long. Now, a lot of them that I saw, it felt like it was still doing both, but they did mention a lot of console exclusive, I want to say, with this last E3, where it specifically said console, not Microsoft or whatever. Maybe it was because it was like, you know, the Xbox showcase more or less, you know, so you were focused on that. But I don't see an issue with it in the rules that we've kind of carved out for ourselves.
Yeah, in the current ecosystem, but I do feel that in regards to the consumer, that exclusivity is not really a positive policy.
Sure.
You know, it divides things into, you know, camps. But like, I always say that the fifth generation or sixth generation, the generations are dumb.
Whatever,
That's a whole no. They
Yeah.
like the PS2, Xbox, GameCube era.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Like, that was the point where most consoles were at parity, where you could port anything to anywhere. You know, there were the exclusives on particular consoles, but every minor publisher, you know, not aside from the huge ones, were porting across all of the systems at once. They weren't ignoring anything, and in general, there was no huge improvement on one or the other. And, you know, there's this kind of romantic idea that you squeeze everything you can out of one console by, you know, being the best at it. But at the same time, it's like, you know, if you're looking for the most impressive graphics, then you got your PC here. You're never gonna top that. So I think that there's a play experience is what should be different about these things, and that can manifest in a lot of different ways. Nintendo likes to do it with controllers. Xbox kind of likes to do it with online experience. So those are really the selling points of the consoles, to me at least.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it's just we've moved into this era that they don't think that they'll sell their consoles as much unless they have these bigger games. Because I almost would hazard to say the new generation here pretty damn close to each other, right? Like, is there really? I mean, I have not touched either. I'll be completely fair. Not even had the privilege to try. I've tried, and as soon as I feel like I'm actually getting to try, I've been denied. But yeah, so it does. Whether we think it's consumer friendly or not, the businesses are going to business, right? And they're trying to think of a way that's going to try to sell their hardware more. And until it all merges into one big thing, I mean, this is how they're going to fight with each other. I think the biggest one here now with the upset was Starfield, because it looked like a lot of people were very excited. And I'll admit, I love to hate Bethesda, but I still like their stuff, even though it'll probably be a buggy mess, and I'll
probably
laugh about how we fell through the floor or my horse just flew away or something random. But I'll still play it.
Now that Bethesda and Obsidian are both on, they need to join forces and make the buggiest game ever created.
That was like... that was the thing. I was like, let Bethesda make it, let Obsidian write it, and it'll be the most glorious... beautiful mess we've ever had in a while. The best game and then the most laughs. I don't know. We'll see what happens from here. I just stop being so upset about it. There's nothing we could do. It was gonna happen. And I feel like PlayStation fans, you've had it good for so long, and you're the loudest one in this room right now. And I get it, because you've not been used to being denied it. You've always had the exclusives.
But you said it. They knew it was coming.
They had
if
to.
If you had a problem, you should have made that turn already.
You had to know. Or just buy a PC like me, guys.
Yeah. Just get a PC.
Be that person who just rides both sides until it doesn't,
I play games for enjoyment, not to get into battles about it.
Right.
It's true. Yeah, it's supposed to be fun. I feel like we've forgotten that, too. It's supposed to be fun. I don't know. Whatever. All of them at Bethesda say we're sorry. We wish we could make for everybody, but we can't. TLDR. And we understand that you're mad. That was our PR push. So they are offering their condolences. Does that make it better? I don't know.
Not to the gaming world, no.
Not to the gaming world. I know. They're going to be upset. It's fine. We'll get through this. I promise. We'll get through this. EA is trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
This actually was kind of a shocker to me. So EA Sports is trying something a little different with their FIFA Ultimate Team, or FUT packs, if you will, during their Festival of Football event, which started June 18th. So apparently now when you go to the store to buy your packs, you'll actually get to preview what is inside the pack first. So they're actually trying to take the surprise mechanic portion of it out of the equation here, which fine. If you're showing somebody what they're going to buy, it's still a random element, but you will get to see. There will be a preview thing, and the way they laid it out here in the article and the picture that I saw, because I don't play FIFA Ultimate Team, so I don't have firsthand experience. But for the people who are playing them and sharing them online, I mean, it looks pretty straightforward, actually. It'll tell you you're in preview mode, tell you when you're about to buy it, and I guess it'll just hang out in that preview mode for a while until the next one generates, if you decide you don't want to buy it. But is EA actually trying to not make kids gamble? I feel like they're luring me into some trap here, Because if I give them an attaboy, how are they going to screw me?
Well, they're coming at this from the point of view that they need to appease an international market. It's not just, FIFA specifically is not a game that they need to adhere to the U.S. gambling laws that have basically, wiped their hands of, loot boxes are not gambling, throw it out. But, of course, in these other countries, I think Denmark or the Netherlands, one of them, they had a litigation about this already. And they're trying to more widely apply this across European law. They need to change the way that they're doing this. Otherwise, they're going to lose the big segment of the market that they have. And I'm absolutely expecting there to be a significant decrease in those profit. And, it's pure profit. It's like you put nothing into it and you get that much out of it. So, see this as what it is. It is still not consumer friendly in the sense that you see what you want to buy and you buy it. Mm-hmm. It is still trying to pull you into the cycle to get you to refresh it quicker. I assume that there's some sort of timer element or something on it.
Yeah, the way it was articulated, you're stuck with whatever you just saw for a bit until a new one generates.
Yeah. I've never understood the excitement of that. Buying the loot boxes in bulk and then kind of opening them all together is one thing, but then it's like you're just trying to get this one specific thing, and then if it has an online marketplace, and then you need to make your cost back, sell that thing. Yeah, us average gamers do not understand. I understand the value of wanting to in your FIFA game, wanting to have your favorite team on there, to have all the accessories that come with that. But going at it from the perspective of you have to do it randomly, it's like you should know what you're getting into. But that's the thing about psychology.
It'd be nice if you could just search what you want and buy it.
Yeah. Plenty of games have that. I'm not against cosmetics, especially, very particular cosmetics.
You spend your money on what you want to. I know what they were specifically trying to target here towards. And and I find it interesting. Well, I shouldn't say interesting. Not really that surprised that it seems like us over here are the only ones not really trying to push any kind of new law on it. Probably figuring out how we could just make money off of it first.
It feels like there's something else going on, and I don't quite know what it is yet. Because they're always super shady. It's like, look at what we're doing. But then they're doing something else over here. So leave it Monday morning, leave it to Jim Sterling, $10. He's already got it figured out.
Ooh, good point.
One of the things I would say about this is they didn't make an announcement of it, as far as I can tell.
No.
So they just kind of slipped it under. This is something that we just pushed out, and they did not, try to go to the press saying, no more loot boxes,
Which is interesting, because weren't we just talking about how he went to the press to all whine about how we were over sensationalizing this gambling practices in the first place? You would think you would want to look at what we're going to do, what we're trying. Remember how I said all of you games journalists are the ones making us to be the bad guy, and it's nowhere near what look. But no, this will be our fault again somewhere down the line, I'm sure.
For sure.
We weren't supposed to tell people. Anyway, you could do this through July 16th if you're a FUT buyer, FIFA Ultimate Team player. I did have the date down for when you could have it. And then after that, it's all bets are off. It's back to gambling, I guess. I don't know. One last thing here that, I like to dunk on for conversation here. Just my data complaint about all the large corporate overlords. But Facebook just can't seem to one-up itself enough on how to make it more garbage than it was the day before. And it found another way, but not surprisingly. I feel like we've all thought it was going this direction for a while, but they're going to give us the privilege of testing out in ads in your VR headset for your Oculus headset. We're going to have the privilege of testing it out here. You see the way that it was articulated. So that's right. So you bought the hardware, you paid full price for the game, and now you get to see an ad. Now you get to see an ad.
And you can't look away. It's right there in your eye hole.
Well, it depends on how they're doing it. It's yet to be seen whether it would be like in your actual Oculus home. Like I know with mine, I have the OG headset still. I don't have the newer versions here, so I don't know how the home experience has changed from the headset to the next. But like it would just be on my TV or something if I built my own little Oculus home that I'm walking around like Jesus Christ or... It seems like a lot of sports games get this, though, because it's easy for them to, like, throw up a billboard, and make it look genuinely like the sport experience. When you were sitting there in the stadium, I'm sure you see billboards from their advertisers or their sponsors and, this home run brought to you by blah, 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 or whatever. I don't know. I imagine that's how it is at sports ball, right?
This reminds me of sci-fi in the early 2000s when someone would put on like their AR glasses, and then it would imitate that era of the internet, whereas there's all these pop-up ads just like coming up in front of you. That's what I imagine the experience will actually be
and
like.
It probably will. So it was introduced on the mobile app. Because if you remember now with the new VR and everything, it has an application that you put your games and everything through. And apparently they've been taking this data off of the app, of course, since about 2019 to figure out how they could target this. So the difference is now they'll be putting them in the headset itself, whereas before they were sneakily trying to put it in those little corner things, like they do on Facebook. And then, of course, tracking your interaction with it. Apparently, though, just like on social media, you can block specific posts or companies that you keep getting inundated with ads that don't interest you. You can just block it. But Facebook mentions it is not changing how it collects or analyzes user info. So in my mind, that means it's still not safe. I think they said that to try to be reassuring. And I was like, but you're not going to change how you've handled everyone? That's actually worse. Can you rephrase? In my opinion, they've not done great at keeping everyone's info private. So they apparently also have no plans to force you into a Facebook account, if we remember. I still have it screenshotted from years ago when a Facebook rep said we were not going to need a Facebook account to use the Oculus headset. And here we are. Do I trust them? Hell no. Not at all. I got rid of mine. And I guess my Oculus headset will be a paperweight in a couple of years is what's going to end up happening. But a Facebook rep said they will use info from your Facebook profile as to what content you have viewed to help serve this up to you, of course. If you viewed it, hovered over it, saved it, or clicked on it in any way within any kind of third-party app, Facebook is going to use this to collect it to serve up ads to you for your in-game experience. So they haven't confirmed solidly whether these ads will show up, like I mentioned earlier, in your Oculus home, or if it's just going to be like on a billboard in a sport game, or if you're just going to have the privilege of during your loading screen to watch a full-on ad. I don't know. But
maybe they'll do it like they do on Facebook, where you start watching a video, you get really into it, and then you get interrupted with an ad. You'll be playing the game, and then instantly interrupted, going, damn it, what?
Probably. And I mean...
Everything about Facebook's owning of Oculus has been just a disaster.
It's
Just disaster after
horrible.
disaster. There is no reason to buy an Oculus Rift.
I actually would suggest everyone pay more for a different headset.
Yeah.
I realize they hit that $299. Sometimes you'll find it for $250. I want to say even just last week they had a sale where you could get the Oculus 2 for $250. But they're going to get money out of you with all this other stuff. And they were also saying that obviously that was another concern because it's Facebook with it having the inside out technology on the headset. Not saying they're the only ones that does this, but since it's Facebook, like, are you taking recordings of stuff in home to service ads on things like that? I don't know. They said no, but again, They also said we wouldn't need a Facebook account to use Oculus. So they're not on a trustworthy foot. So I don't trust any of this. So if you have an Oculus, just be prepared. You'll pay $70 for your game. And then you'll also get to watch ads. Because Facebook. Because Facebook. Because Zuckerberg. But this is a key part of ensuring we're creating a self-sustaining platform that can support a variety of business models that unlock new types of content and audiences for you.
What?
It also helps us continue to make innovative AR, VR hardware more accessible to people.
Yeah, that's my response.
That in a blog post.
And you did it in the most robotic voice. That's so perfect.
I felt like Mark
This is
Turney
what
there
we
for a
are
little
doing.
bit. I hate to say that 'cause he's like a legit gamer, you know, and like a cool dude, but like the way he does the
Yeah, he's not
like,
the greatest
"Am I watching
presenter,
a real thing, or is he real? He was so still. Like, is he okay? Someone poke him. Make sure he's fine. Is someone holding you hostage? Blink twice. Anyway, I've lost my mind. I have a couple of quick hits.
Okay, what you got?
Quick hits.
I feel like I'm flying through all this today. Y'all are just letting me like complain and not interrupt me.
I try.
No, we love.
All right. So this could be cool if you're a GameStop's Power Rewards member or Pro member, and also Quick, I guess. But they're giving their Pro members first dibs at PS5s, yo. You might get an email that says, hey, you're a Pro member. You know, do you want to buy it? I've seen some other companies kind of doing that as well, which I don't know if your odds get any better. But if you're a member, check your email. You might have gotten the notification. Of course, you got to log into, you know, your GameStop account and go to the website and all of that kind of stuff. But they're going to do an early access sale for just them Thursday, June 17th started. And then just kind of got to keep, I guess, looking at your email to see if they're going to do any more. So that's two I've seen now, because I think PlayStation started doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
email invites to certain members for their.
I've seen a lot of talk about, you know, ways you can combat people, scalpers, people who buy this stuff in bulk and everything, and like signing up for an auction kind of deal is actually a pretty good solution as far as things go, because it does lock you to like an account that you need to be able to present that you're the owner of, that you can get this thing, and then you know, you get your product, and presumably because you are a person and not a robot, you can go get your thing and you can have your enjoyment there at home.
I still don't know how it works. Like, do these scalpers really have like 10,000 different addresses? Because I feel like you could see 100 was getting sent to the same place and go, but maybe we'll send one. But
They've learned how to game the system.
I could have just sounded like the stupidest person in the world for those at home who actually understand how this works. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like,
I don't know the full extent of this, but I do think that sometimes they set themselves up as a retail store, basically. You know, like so they pretend that they're a retail store, and then they get their inventory and then they resell it.
See, nefarious minds. I keep saying you're all are brilliant if you would just use it for good. Seriously, like these are like most of the criminal mind I find fascinating because you're really genius. But I wish we could gear you towards like the human good with these ideas instead of screwing us all over. I don't know. But make sure you have signed up if you're not on their email list. Put on Twitter alerts. Do whatever you got to do to get alerted if you're one of those out there still trying to buy a PS5. I've given up. I'm just going to wait until people don't seem to care as much anymore. And then
you should always wait. There's no point in buying a console as soon as it comes out.
I always have bad luck, so I'd like it to at least have a patch or two out because I will get that one console where something was going wrong. So I like to wait at least a year anyway. But I admit I got swooped up in the hype. I wanted it.
FOMO.
I did have FOMO. But But you might like this also, Steven. I don't know if you get into these things, but Sony's opening up a PS5 beta program ahead of their next major system update. Did you get in on it?
I signed up.
Oh, nice. I was going to say, you should if you hadn't, but cool, you already did. So I think it was last week they shared they have a major rollout update for later this year planned, and it was asking people, of course, to test it out. If you were willing, you can register. This is their first ever beta for something like this, they say.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, I never really paid attention to whether they've...
Curious what it will be, because for it to be a beta program for an update to the system, I feel like it would have to be something pretty big, something major that they're gonna
second SSD, maybe, baby.
It's got to be something large enough that they really want to test it before they roll it out, and they need all the feedback they can get. And my brain can't really process what exactly they would change, unless they're trying to put it back in. If you look at the way it's kind of set up, they've simplified it, but there's not a lot of customization like you have with the 4 or the 3. So it's like your bar of games is up here, and then you kind of keep it simplified. And I don't mind that, but maybe some people want that customization.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I saw a little hullabaloo about people, taking a guess. I don't know. Maybe that'll be what's fun for y'all. It'll be a nice surprise you'll get to see, and then you can't wait to tell us all about it, hopefully. I don't know. But you can sign up if you're registered.
We'll make a son an NDA, you watch.
Oh, you're probably right. But they have to know that doesn't work.
For a public beta?
I'll honor it.
People apparently just do not abide by those. But still on the Sony train, it looks like we really are nearing the end of the last gen's life cycle. This is a very confusing time right now to be a gamer. So if you were still one of those people enjoying a lot of, looks like, Rockstar games on PS3 or 360, hate to break it to you, but it seems like you're nearing the end of being able to use those consoles and still get updates for these games. So if you play GTA 5 online, apparently the support will be done September 16th. Be no longer sold or anything. You can still play your story mode, but online, we're done. Sorry, BBs. Sorry. LA Noire fans are going to have the same fate also on September 16th. Again, your story mode will be fine, but if you played online...
That's
Wait,
online?
yeah, I was confused.
They actually did, and I honestly didn't know it was big enough to have still come on when I was reading this blog post too, because I remember the Hubs playing it. Huh. You know, every time there's an online shooter PvP mode in any game, he'll give it a shot for a little while, and I went, oh, interesting, but I didn't know it was still a thing. So you can do it on PS4 and 5. You just won't be able to on the 3.
I didn't even know they re-released it on those other consoles.
Oh, have they on 5 yet? I know.
I don't think on 5.
On PC. Yeah, you're maybe right on the 5. So unless there's that fast whatever, but they may not have it for that one yet. And also it looks like Max Payne 3. So if you were playing all of those on Xbox 360 and PS3 through September 16th, it looks like they'll still be supporting those online versions. But after that, it'll just be story mode for you. It'll just be story mode for you. And unfortunately, your progress and stuff won't transfer, it looks like. As I was reading through some of the frequently asked questions. So, yeah, if you have whatever currency in these games, spend it up, do what you got to do, because it doesn't look like they're going to do anything for you if you have it sitting there by the time this happens. But to be fair, how long has it been?
8 years.
I was more surprised people were still using those two consoles for
Yeah,
online
it was a
gameplay.
simultaneous release on PS4, PS3, Xbox One. So, like, if you were playing on the last gen thing, then it's like, you know, it was already on the point where they were going to go out.
We are now.
Yeah,
right.
Like so, and if you really care about contiguousy, then obviously PC.
Yeah. At least that we still, you know, as long as they don't take our servers away.
They will eventually. It all happens. You know, this is a thing
will
about
eventually.
preservation, but you know, It's all inevitable. It's all digital. It's all ephemeral, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I lost my Neopets account so long ago.
It is no longer there. Some of our farms have been dying for a very long time.
Yeah.
No. Oh, man. Well, anyway, yep. So if you got virtual currency, virtual goods, whatever, however it works for you over there, it sounds like you got till September 16th to have your fun with it. And then after that, it's gotta go move up. Gotta move up at least to the last gen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that they're even releasing it on the PlayStation 5, and I'm sure the Xbox Series
GTA 5 is the last installment. They're never making a new one. They're milking this thing forever. The fact that it was on PS3.
PS3.
I mean, good job at creating a game that's had this kind of staying power for crying out loud. But dear God, it's been a long time.
And they're not even, they're just porting it over. They're not doing any special.
New paint.
Hardly.
New paint is all I could think of, and maybe just making it work for whatever that is. But I don't know. But I mean, good job. Good job. I would not have seen it lasting this long. Cyberpunk 2077 might finally be returning to Sony stores. I lied. Apparently today, when you're listening to it, you can buy it on Sony stores again. June 21st, it gets to come back. Although Sony don't recommend still buying it over there. It still goes over. But you can buy it. Well, actually, they recommend PS4 Pro and PS5 moving forward still.
So is this still technically the PlayStation 4 version?
I think so, yeah. Because they've not made a specific PS5 version of the game, to my knowledge.
Because I thought they were working on those, and they said, yeah, we're going to release that later. But it's been later.
They just released a new patch on the 17th, 1.23.
And what does that do?
Maybe that's what... I mean,
it's 1.23, all right?
List. Yeah, it's 1.23.
Easy as 1.23.
All it says in the patch notes is...
it says fixes myriad of bugs, this quest, blah, blah, blah. So I don't usually rattle it all off anymore because they kind of read the same almost every time they put out a patch. It's just the quest that's bugged might be different from the last patch notes. I don't know. I haven't clicked it back on. I need to now that it's had quite a few updates and make a comparison because I was one of those who played it live. But again, I played it on PC, so I didn't have as bad of a time as other people. Were there issues? Sure. But it was playable. I got through it just fine. And most of the bugs just made me laugh. And I know that's not how I'm supposed to act with a full price game, but you got to find the joy, people. You just drive yourself crazy at every little thing. So, yeah, I guess... If you wanted to get it on the PlayStation 4 and you were wondering when it was going to come back, here you go. Congratulations. You can play it today. I just still thought it was funny that they were but you probably still don't want to.
Meh. I'll pass. You're going to have to convince me that it's a perfect game at this point.
I don't know.
I'm not going to buy that.
I guess I can agree with that. It would need to be at least the Pro or on up because, I mean, it is pretty intense as far as the stuff rendering. And those who were able to play it, it seemed like a lot of it was just, it would be an empty, void world because they wouldn't be able to render all of the extra people to kind of let the game itself run, So it just couldn't feel like it was a lived-in thing.
We're back in the days of the text adventure where you get your story or you get your graphics.
One of the two. That's it. Maybe open a door. Turn on a light switch. But, I mean, I'm about those games, and maybe they won't serve you up ads. I don't know. Gaming moving forward, starting to get me a little it's already an expensive hobby, people. And you're
the generation above you already felt that way about this generation.
That's true. We all have the right?
Mm-hmm.
Old man waves at cloud.
Right.
Damn you.
Again, this is why I go to indies, man. I'm telling you, it's a fair price, usually a better story. I don't need it to be oh my God, look at these graphics, they're so amazing, and the apple looks so real. It's I want a good story, and I want it to play right.
That's all we can hope.
And so go play indies, guys, because I still support them more. But... even with the wrapping up of E3 at Games Fest, it's a little bit slower of a week. So that was about all that caught my eye. I thought for sure we'd have like maybe some huge announcement after the last podcast for E3 or something that was gonna happen after we recorded, because it does always. And no,
It's okay.
I was waiting to jump on that Switch train, but
Well, like every year, once E3 passes, the well dries up. We know
true.
this.
This is
We
why
are in the
usually take our
barren
breaks.
wasteland of game news.
All right, we're just talking about Facebook ads and dunking on E3 or E3. I'm sorry, not E3. EA.
We can dunk on E3 a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But it was
Actually,
fine
that
this
was-
year. There's no massive
Yeah.
disappointments or anything. It's better when they're not in the giant halls and, spending all this money to reveal something that we don't want.
Which kind of makes you wonder, like, is E3 working that way anymore? I
Yeah,
wonder
it's-
if, Jeff Keighley's more onto something here and how to.
Well, I'm not going to
moving
agree with
forward.
that, but
Well, I mean, just in changing up the format, like needing to be in-person convention style. I don't know. I miss it. I don't want it to go away.
I think
still like my gaming conventions. I still think everyone who's a gamer owes it to themselves to go to a gaming convention at
definitely
least once in their lives.
But I do think that the original purpose of E3 was as an industry show, and that like when they started doing videos and everything, like started like 2006 or whatever, when the PS3 was first revealed, it started to become more consumer oriented. There needs to be more of a business industry showcase. I've been to GDC, so I went to.
Nice.
So I met with game developers and everything. So like they have the creative folks have their conference, and they also hawk tools there and everything. Unity and anyone remember Amazon Lumberyard? They had a booth there. But I feel like there does need to be something for the business people that doesn't have to be like the stodgiest, conference, like a sales conference of a paper company or something like that.
True.
So,
and I think we've also got to remember it's not just games. It's electronic, all around, so.
yeah, when's Leapfrog coming back to E3? Come on.
Come to Chicago, right?
That's why I like PAX, because it feels a lot like it's a game showcase. It's not about an industry thing. They're just, everyone's there to show off their game, and that's where you can find those little gems,
Oh
And
yeah,
I spend the whole time in indie booths. The whole time. And I'll still find stuff on the last day that I still hadn't walked past. Just the indies. I don't bother with all the other stuff. I'll find out about that.
Yeah, so
they've got
there's-
the marketing to send it my way at some point.
There's 3 different divisions of ways you can be interested in games. Players, industry creative people, industry business people. I mean, there's more than that, but that those are kind of the levels of which you could
For this
hold
conversation,
a convention to that.
Yeah.
I go to retro conventions sometimes. I'm going to go up to Midwest Gaming Classic. So like
Nice.
I'm on more of the retro part, even though I'm probably like the youngest person there that's not a son of somebody. But there are different. These things don't have to be, right next to each other. We don't have to have an ultimate gaming event or anything. And it's good that we have kind of local events, MagFest, PRGE, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to go and meet with people and discover something new, there should be a venue for all of that. And I think E3 needs to be the business venue, but I'm speaking from somebody looking at this from a history standpoint.
Sure. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's always good to have the different perspective on it. In which case, now might be a good time to dive into that brilliant mind.
Yeah.
Brilliant?
See
Oh,
if I
no.
missed
You,
anything.
you got to stop right there.
Don't be humble.
Right.
So I do want to kind of start with some connections that you have. You're kind of acquainted with our guest last week, Alex.
Yep, I've got it
yeah.
right in front of his book, the first volume. I have my own paragraph in the acknowledgments, so I can say that I have been useful in a quote unquote foundational tome. His words, not mine. Of video game history. Really, that's been my thing. Just like trying to connect with people and having little branches of connection with all the various people doing things. I've helped with a large number of projects in the past.
So how long have you known Alex? I mean, how long does that kind of go back?
It's only to 2016. We didn't know each other before that. He had just been doing his blog, and I was getting into this general history idea. I had things that I was working on. At first, he was kind of keeping me at arm's length. I'll tell you that. But then I found something for him about Periscope, and then he was like, "Oh, this guy's doing actual work. I'm going to trust him now."
Yeah. Not just some dude who's like, "Hey," slides into the email.
Yeah.
Another name I kind of saw on your blog site, which is another gaming historian that I've researched and kind of taken from his stuff as well. Jimmy Marr.
Jimmy Mayer. Mar. Yeah, I think it's actually Mar. He was on the Video Game History Hour recently, and they said Mar, so I think that's appropriate. Yeah, I don't know him personally, but I try and help out when he has a very specific set of knowledge, and he acknowledges that in regards to computer games and literary history. His blog is very good. Anyone who is interested in video game history should read it. But he gets shaky sometimes on console stories and things like that. So some certain people that I've interviewed, I can add something to the thing. And I've interviewed over 100 people that have worked in the video game industry. So I have a bit of knowledge to share sometimes. It's all very specific. It feels like.
Hey, latch onto that niche, man. If it works, tell ya. Shouldn't be ashamed of any knowledge.
Before I forget about it, we got to talk about Frank Fogleman.
I actually had that on here.
I did.
I had that on here.
Yeah, so I do have to get on you about one thing from these previous episodes that you've been looking into stuff, drawing on things that Keith has done and I've done. We'll have to say Periscope is not a light gun game. I do have to put that up there. It has an actual physical mechanism that moves. It's not just shooting at the screen. Yeah. So
not just running up to the TV.
Yeah. So I've become very involved with Gremlin. I'm pretty much the Gremlin historian because they actually this is completely unique out of any company from that era. They have kept a reunion going since the 70s.
Wow.
That even after Gremlin collapsed, they continued meeting at this one restaurant on an airfield in San Diego, and I contacted Frank Fogleman, and he started telling me about some of this stuff, and then I managed to go out there twice. So I've become this is the first time I've physically met people from the industry.
That's cool.
And they thought I was a very odd little person just kind of wandering around there, but it was a very heartwarming event, and Frank even let me stay at his home once, so I feel like we have a personal sort of connection. And basically, he strong-armed me write a book about this. So this is
there you go.
So I've been working on that. It's actually a dual-tiered book because I didn't think Gremlin by itself could be a book. But there's another company located in San Diego, may have heard of it, called Cinematronics. They're the company.
Rings a bell.
I was gonna say it sounds familiar.
They put out Dragon's Lair, which is probably what you'll know best. But these two companies were intertwined in many ways. I won't spoil what might eventually come.
We're gonna have to go get the book.
Yeah, it's not out yet. I need to get back out to San Diego, do research, talk to people, and get a sense of things. But that's one project I'm working on, and there are others kind of floating up in the air. I did not have a chance to tell Frank Fogleman that you said he sounded like a Dick Tracy character, though.
But it's so cool.
He does. He has
a
one of
cool
those...
sounding name. It works out for that.
I
mean, you even got to look through his book. It looked like
on
the website. Like he had a.
Yeah, it was a binder. It's been lost, actually. I looked it up and I called him a bit later, and it's like, recently some maids went through and I can't find the book anymore.
No.
But I captured the information. So at least I got that part. This is some of the things that you realize when you go into archives. You don't know what you're going to find, obviously.
Sure.
But what I found in this binder were especially these newsletters. Almost every big coin-op company had company newsletters that they would distribute to the people, who are buying the games, and also the people within the company who may not know everything that's happening around the company. Today we have kind of online newsletters that give you little snippets of things. But this, it goes into literally every aspect of production. It talks about the woodworking people, the wiring department, the technical support and repairs and whatnot. And that was, you don't hear about this stuff, and in many ways it's not as generally interesting, but you do realize that these people live their lives, and this was a huge part of that, and they did have an influence on how these games developed in terms, everyone loves the look of a sleek cabinet, but who's the person that actually put that together? And
right.
And I will tell you, this is a crazy thing. I actually contacted somebody who turned out he was a production manager at Gremlin. Turned out he was a friend of my father. I didn't even know.
That's crazy. Like, such a small world.
Yeah. So, if you look in unusual places...
Did he have any good dirt about your dad? There you go.
But, so if you look in unusual places, you can find interesting stories. And Alex talks a lot about this, too. It's if you are only getting in with the game creators and only getting their perspective on the stories, then you're going to get a slice that is tailored to their memory and their experience and what they think is important. And obviously, it's the same for everybody. But things like, this console was not successful because we were not paid enough to make good games for it. But then if you talk to somebody who was running production, it's like, well, we had a huge problem with production. We couldn't get the consoles out enough to meet orders. And then you kind of you form a more rich and interesting story, at least in my opinion. So I that's why I think that there is a lot of value to talking to everybody across the line if they have something to tell. Some people don't remember things, and they are maybe not as interesting. But so many of them are willing. That's the crazy thing. It's just, I have very rarely gotten a rejection, ever.
Wow.
Wow.
Over 100, and only a small number of rejections.
I mean, the history that you guys are putting together and reading that, it's fascinating to me. This is why I've actually started really digging into a lot of your guys' work and kind of doing a Cliff's Notes version of it, as I like to call it, because it's so fascinating. There's so many little things that you don't think about. And, history goes back, as we said, over 100 years.
If you're talking arcade games.
Arcade games, but then, of course, that leads to consoles and the gaming world as we know it today. So, it's all connected in some way, shape, or form, but the history is so rich, and it's just little details, little things. Like, what were we talking? Well, with Gremlin, just their whole journey
it was hilariously cursed, and I don't mean that to be like a dig, but it was just you kept going, oh my gosh, why?
But they kept going. Yeah. They were trying to persevere despite it all, but they tried.
Yeah, I like the word
them for that.
Yeah, I like the word rich that you use, because it's very small, actually. Even if you're talking about arcade games, even going back 100 years, there are very direct connections between people and places. And especially in the early video game industry, it's every executive that worked for Sony, at one point worked for Sega, and many of the people who worked at Nintendo went to Sega, and they're smaller companies too, but it's there were only a very small number of players that really mattered in that industry. So if you dig just even a little bit under the surface, under the press releases, you start seeing that there are these layers of interconnection, these woven threads that one thing leads to another. It's a very, very rich palette to get a handle on, and like we're still digging up the sources, oral history and books and whatnot that just never have been mined and looked at for interesting little details about everything you can imagine.
Sega definitely seems to be a through line on a lot of things. Their name keeps popping up every time I go into one of these journeys through these blogs. I notice they seem to pop up in the oddest of places that I wouldn't have thought about, but there they are.
Yeah, they were a very adventurous company, and they're one of the few companies that was, in before video games, and then continue through. They never really considered themselves a home console company, which is what people kind of consider them as, with Sonic, Dreamcast, Saturn, Genesis, all that stuff. That's where they made their impact on culture, but it's very far from the only thing that they did. They, even today, they are a big promoter of anime productions, and they've done theme parks, and of course they were a big arcade owner up until very recently, where they divested all of that stuff to an outside company. I was
reading about some of that.
Yeah, the arcade situation in Japan is fraught. It was you can kind of expect that was going to happen. There is now a greater incentive to go to locations to try and have fun with people up in person, to play interesting experiences. So that's a hopeful note on the arcade being in an upswing, an uptick. Very recently, the Arcade Dreams production was actually here around in Chicago, and they were meeting with people like Gary Stern and Eugene Jarvis, and getting a sense of where the arcade might be going in the future.
So since you kind of brought that up, let's talk about that for a minute. So how did you kind of get involved with the Arcade Dreams documentary? 'Cause we said up top you were an advisor, so how did that come about?
Yeah, Zach, the director, Zach Weddington, he was on a podcast called the Retro Hour podcast, talking about this was early stages of this project, 2018. So this has been going on for quite a while. He's been accumulating footage all over this time. And he was very enthusiastic, and I saw the trailer, and I was absolutely blown away by the cinematography. The Amiga Bill Winters is the cinematographer, and he is absolutely astounding. He's shooting these games, these ancient games, over 100 years old, in a way that brings life to them. Because you see an old antique and you don't really think much about it, even if it moves, or, you might have played an old style shooting game with little balls and whatnot. It doesn't feel as exciting as even an 80s video game. But when you really get the sense of like how it feels and how it felt to the people at the time, that was really intriguing. So I contacted Zach because I was just like, I've done arcade research. I have a good number of resources on this. And then, I'd be willing to just fact check stuff for you. But then he drew me in as a member of the team. That was his initiative. I did not go in there with the intention.
Who was luring who?
So we've had a very fruitful relationship together. So I like to say researcher is kind of the thing, and that involves both the general fact-checking aspect, but also finding pictures that would be useful for the documentary, identifying archives that we might want to explore, and and being the person to help shape interviews when we're getting around to those. So, historian is a broad term. So I like to think that I have accumulated, even though I didn't go to school for this kind of stuff, a wide breadth of knowledge on how to approach a subject like this. And I just like filmmaking too, so that's a good aspect.
It's kind of blending all the loves together.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at the crew. Let's just say crew. I don't know why I said cast, but I saw that. I think it was on the Kickstarter page that they had up. There may have been another page that I was looking at, but all the people involved, I mean, it was an impressive swath of people. One name in particular that kind of hit me was Barış Garabedian. He's the executive producer. He runs JoBlo.com.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's actually where I saw the trailer was on their YouTube page, and that just kind of was like, oh, wow. So, I mean, there were a lot of familiar names, and then, of course, saw your name on there, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So
this is going to be the first, like, major project that I'm involved with. I've done all these kind of minor things, articles, editing for GA. I did write a book. But this is kind of the first thing where I feel like I can really say that I have made a valuable contribution that people will actually see and enjoy.
Hey, your blog is a valuable contribution in my book.
Thank you.
It really is.
Anytime we've brought it up, or at least with the Periscope, we'll even have it in the show notes today. I want people to go check it out. Go take a read.
The history of how we played at WordPress.com.
Right? Yes, that's exactly it.
So let's talk about your blog for a minute, because going back to your very first blog post that I found, so you can correct me if I did not dig up the right one. It was a history of the N64, and it was posted on Medium. Is that correct?
Yeah, originally did that because I didn't want to try and start up a blog and everything. And that article is now almost, at the time of this release, almost 5 years old. That's pretty crazy. Wow. Because I did it for the 20th anniversary of the N64. I wanted to do a revised version this year, try to talk to more people, but time is a fickle thing.
It is
in the adult world. So that was the first time that I really got serious about things. Like, I set a deadline. I was like, I'm doing this on the date that it was released in Japan, and I'm going to contact these people. I got the lead architect and several of the team members, and I dug up some stuff that you can't even get on the internet anymore. It was a very it was a deep dive. It was the kind of thing I like to do, to like really explore a subject and try to find the story. I did like the story in this one is a bit tangential. It starts off with technology that's technically not related to the N64, but it kind of influences what happens. So I feel like I found something. I found those little threads that tied everything together.
Yeah.
So why the N64? Why was that your focal point at the time?
It was my first console. So
yeah.
Oh, fine.
I wanted to assume as much, but I wanted to hear it straight from you.
Yeah, so there's that aspect.
We never want to assume.
There's that aspect, and then also there's the aspect which has plagued many people who want to try and tell the story of video game consoles, is that most of them are made in Japan, but in this case the technology was made in North America, so I could actually talk to people about this. There have been like 4 comprehensive histories of the Xbox. There's one by Dean Takahashi. That was a printed book.
I didn't realize there were that many.
Yeah, then Russell De Maria made Game of X, and then David Craddock made a big long read on the Xbox. And so they keep retelling the story because they're people they can access, and there's
and
interesting
it's not really
aspects.
that old in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely overtold. But it is exciting. The console stories tend to be more exciting, more dramatic, and I get it. But at the same time, there is at least one more you could talk about. There's also, the Atari consoles and everything. But, the N64 was just a very interesting project, and kind of was also the foundation in a lot of ways of modern hype culture. They really pushed, everything that they were doing, and put like an Ultra before it, or the Dream Team, and all this sort of stuff. So,
oh my God, I don't know that I ever really thought about that.
Yeah,
I had one. And I'm like trying to think back now, yeah.
I mean, I didn't read video game magazines at the time. I was very much out of this. But the N64...
You didn't have to rely on those for your cheats or your hits.
Yeah, I just played the game as it was. But, but I still really think that N64 has plenty of games worth experiencing. But what was really interesting to me about it was the development environment. Especially, no one has very well documented it either. This thing with with SGI and how they would provide kind of an interface board to go into their typical computers. There were a lot of very interesting details that I still need to dig more into, but reading that article will give you a very broad look at the aspects of N64 development.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really interesting stuff. While we're on the subject of the 64, I'm pretty sure I read this correctly. Your favorite game was Hydro Thunder?
Well, in the arcade.
Oh, in the arcade. So not the 64.
No, I didn't even know that there was a 64 version back in the day. I probably would have bought it.
So what's your favorite N64 game?
N64, probably Majora's Mask. I was just really, really struck
High
with
five.
that when I first played it. So,
I feel like that one's criminally underrated as far as Zelda games go.
Yeah, the debate of underrated is an overrated debate. So I tend to like games that I tend to like mainstream stuff, but stuff that will at least give you something to think about. The game that made me want to be involved with games is Half-Life 2. Super mainstream game. It's not like it's a hidden classic or anything, but it really it hit me in a way that I was just like, wow, this is what games are. This is what they can be. So that's why I pursued a game development degree, but the fruits of that have not quite taken root yet.
Not yet.
It's tough. It's tough.
So, Gaming Alexandria, that's another name that popped up as I was looking at. How'd you get involved with that group?
It was actually through another group that was active for a little while. There was this guy, still around, I shouldn't say was, named Stefan Ganser. He is a Swedish man who is obsessively interested in Sunsoft, the developer from back in the day.
Okay,
So he has been researching Sunsoft. He's getting ready, I think, now to start releasing some of his work in the form of digital magazines. And he had this site called VG Arc, which was, I think, kind of a subdomain of Gaming Alexandria, because Stefan had done the web code for Gaming Alexandria. So eventually he was like, I'm going to wrap this one up. You can join us over at Gaming Alexandria. And I kind of became the resident history man over there. I was the guy who was like, not just talking about the scans and all the great things that we do, the dumps and all this stuff. I love getting an opportunity to help share all these things. But I was the kind of guy looking at the stories and clearing up misconceptions. Actually, that kind of thing.
That guy.
Yes. I fully accept my role as this. Even on the video game newsroom time machine, I serve as the Department of Corrections. So
I'd go the other.
Yeah.
Sounds more fun, at least.
Yeah, So Gaming Alexandria is just a general game preservation site, and we post historical articles. Main brunt of everything is scans, magazine scans, video game cover scans, manuals, carts, all this stuff. We're doing, back in the day, Moby Games used to have kind of a repository of this stuff, but they used to put watermarks on it. Anybody remember when Moby Games put watermarks on everything? I do. They're still around, still a great resource, and they stopped doing the watermark thing. But there was kind of an obsession with saying, I put the work in to scan this, so you must know that I did this, and you cannot use it for any purposes other than looking at it. We are very much a kind of freedom of information kind of organization, I guess. We really just want to share these things. We want to have them available in high quality. It's not we don't believe digital as the be-all, end-all of preservation. But we are very intent on people having the resources available to tell these stories or just enjoy and relive aspects of their childhood and everything. Our mission is game preservation, and that just means everything that you think it means.
Yeah. So I think it would be wonderful to just see an old video game manual for like an old NES game that connects back to a game that you remember playing time and again. Because I couldn't tell you what half of them look like anymore. But to see it now would be, it'd take me back. It would be like my own little time machine.
Yeah, so we've organized everything so that it's easily searchable and all that. I know I'm trying to sound like a sales pitch right now, but it's just
check it out.
Just
check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, if you are interested in ephemera, as we like to say, then check out Gaming Alexandria, because we have so many things. But
be really certain though, because like that memory might be better what you're holding on to too. Like I've ruined some for myself where I was like, ugh, should have just let this be.
Hey, the reality and the nostalgia are intertwined, and I think that it is usually positive to to get a perspective on your past.
Sure, for sure. So we kind of glossed over this a moment ago with the documentaries, but I did want to ask, are you a fan of any of the other video game documentaries that have come out over the last couple of years, like High Score, Console Wars?
Oh, man.
Do you feel like any of them have actually done the work proper?
Well, there are different priorities in documentaries versus an examination of history. And we, Alex is included in this, we have come together to, we for a while we were doing basically video game documentary viewing parties. So we viewed most of them. So as far as I could find, all these various ones, there were plenty done in the early 2000s, some by G4, like Discovery Channel and all this sort of stuff. The fundamental problem with most of these documentaries, especially the ones in the 2000s, is they are Kantian ideology, which is a fancy term for saying that they read the ultimate history of video games and they did not need to understand anything more than what was in that book. This book was written in 2001 by Steve Kent, who was a video game journalist, and it is a very broad and sometimes very interesting look at video game history, but it has become kind of the de facto text, and there are plenty of just blatant errors, things like dates that are just wrong, and stories that are just completely fictional. I don't blame him too much on that, but there have been better works since then, and people just gravitate to Kent because of the way that he wrote that book. It's extremely accessible. He's doing a volume, a sequel volume, basically this year, so that's probably going to get a good amount of traction and everything. But yeah, there's definitely been no video game documentary that has wowed me. I can recommend a couple that are a bit more interesting. There was by CBC, the Canadian broadcasting company. They put out a series called The Artists. It's a bit hard to view because you have to kind of... you don't have to live in Canada, but there's kind of restrictions on how you can view this.
So a VPN, maybe?
Yeah, it's not... No, you don't need the VPN, but it's just...
Oh, you don't?
No, it's
okay.
there's just restrictions.
Okay.
It's a bit hard to explain. I'm not going to get into a technical thing about proprietary streaming software on this, but they did a series, just kind of mini docs on people in the video game industry who really kind of looked at things as artistry and tried to create something greater out of it. And what's another one? That might be it. That might be the only one that I can like really recommend. And then I can recommend the YouTube people. So you don't have to go to the mainstream documentaries like that. Gaming Historian, Norm's a friend of mine. He does good stuff. Wrestling with Gaming.
I feel like there was another one you were watching.
Well, Norman was the one that he was actually talking. I was trying to get him on the show too.
Oh, okay.
He's a busy man in grad school.
That's what he told me. He
Yeah.
said school's taking a lot of his time right now, so maybe
grad school.
Yeah. So and Historic Nerd is another one. Genovi. There are a couple people who are like really doing interesting dives into unusual topics. So I can recommend that stuff. And the three from last time, it's pretty much the same thing as Alex. We even put together on my blog a cadre of people reviewed High Score, and we were all just like, "What is this? Why is it this way?" I'll let my words speak for themselves over there, but it was baffling in many ways.
Yeah, we actually spoke about it when it came out, and for us, I guess not really knowing a lot of the gaming history was like, oh, okay, so there's some interesting stuff in here, but we also did notice, I guess for us, it felt rushed. Like there was no
it just felt
substance.
very superficial. Like here's very surface of things that happened, and like there wasn't any. It didn't break any news to me.
It
that
had
I
interesting
hadn't already at least
topics.
heard a
It
little
was
bit.
it was unusual in the sense that they did try to cover different angles, and I think that's probably your best bet if you want to be a historian in this field with big air quotes around it.
Yeah.
But it was just not told well. As someone who understands visual storytelling and everything, it was, that was...
It did feel... I don't know. It did feel kind of all over the place.
Scatterbrained.
Like, we just kept
Console
hopping.
Wars was fine. It's about what you can expect from the book. The book is a bit sensationalized in some ways, but I appreciated it. I guess I can recommend that. It's just, it is very tailored to a specific perspective, and you really need to understand that if you're gonna start saying that things were this way based on this documentary. That's the thing. If you're getting into historical discourse, you need to do more than just read books or documentaries, because there really is not a lot of very good scholarship on this stuff, because it's very new. That's why I put quotes around field.
And I would even say for like places like Netflix and stuff like that, they still want it to be more entertaining.
I still didn't think High Score hit that mark, but that I leave that to my words that I've said already.
Yeah.
I think that
Here I tried, and I'm like, I don't know who I'm trying to defend. It doesn't matter to me.
But I'm hoping that with something like our Arcade Dreams, we can, even though it's not specifically about video games, we can set a bar in terms of what you should expect. And I think there are plenty of independent game researchers out there who would consult on any of this stuff and make it so that it doesn't come out as an embarrassment as like Playing with Power did. It's funny because I got Chris Kohler, who is also a friend of mine, but they really messed up some stuff.
It's fascinating to hear
Right?
that you pick it out. I mean, that would have to be hard to watch one of these and be like,
Oh
what?
my God,
No, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's absolutely wrong.
I mean, I tried to in the first place to just take things as they are. I do not try to, I don't sit there with the notepad scribbling everything out.
Right.
Rolling your eyes constantly. Yeah.
So I every little mistake it's not going to bother me that much. It's like, oh, they did the Pac-Man pizza thing. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. I'm even helping with the official Pac-Man book. So I can say that I have a bit more knowledge on the pizza thing than many people. But errors in themselves aren't the problem, and it's kind of the same thing of like book adaptation or a movie adaptation of a book. It's like you could sit there and see every little change, or you could just take it as it is, and it's like, and then reevaluate. And it's like, oh, did they leave out this characterization because they decided that this wasn't important and whatnot? So that's how I generally take these things. I do not go into it with a vendetta of just scraping apart all the terrible aspects. Which sometimes is terrible, sometimes it's just inoffensive, but so that I try to view things on multiple levels.
With that good lens. No, that's a good way to do it, to try to take each medium for what they're trying to do in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then if it's egregiously wrong, yeah, maybe say something.
Well, I've got one more question, and I don't know if Lace might have anything, but and I don't even know if you'll know this specifically. But 2 questions about Arcade Dreams that kind of go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. One, do you have an idea how it will be presented, if they're doing it in just like one long documentary or segments? And 2, maybe when we might see it?
Well, the general release date is going to be summer 2022. So we're basically going to wrap up filming this year, and then it's going to be post-production through 2022 until they're ready to release it. I think they had a vague thing on the Kickstarter June, but that's just kind of a. But it is going to be 2022, as far as I can tell. We're starting to get over the COVID restrictions and everything. They've been shooting arcade stuff while there's still been restrictions, like a big one opened in Jersey City. So they've shot some interesting footage and done kind of demo reels and things. And the format of it is going to be 4 episodes. And the episodes are going to be from the beginning of the arcades industry up until World War II. And then from post-World War II through to the emergence of video games. So, which is the very exciting electromechanical era. That's the technical term for it. It's called Games Get Groovy is the title for it. Because it's you get through the 60s and that's where you get your periscope and everything. So that
there you go.
Not that we found a working model yet, but that's a different story.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah. Then there's the 3rd episode, which is going to be the golden age of the arcade video games. Covering all the high-flying things, the things that most people are going to be excited about, but hopefully they will follow us along for the journey through these antiques and where a lot of concepts of early arcade video games come from. So, and that will go up to basically the 2000s, and then from the 2000s to today. And, that... I feel like sometimes a lot of documentaries are like, what's happening today? And it's not extremely interesting. It's just, I came here to see what it was. I'm watching this documentary on Toyota or something, and I don't want to see their modern-day manufacturing plant. That's not interesting.
Right. Give me 30 years, and then I'll care about that.
Yeah. But in this case, there are very interesting, exciting things happening in the arcade. There's quite a few pinball companies running around, which you may not know if you don't go to some of these bars that have these things. Obviously, there's Stern Pinball. There's also Spooky Pinball up in Wisconsin that have done some very interesting things. There, right by me, there is an arcade that has a bar-focused arcade. You can't say barcade, that's trademarked. But
beercade,
a bar with an arcade, whatever, tavernade, whatever term you want to use.
I'm derailing it as you were.
They have a interesting table over there called Total Nuclear Annihilation, which is just like. Probably my favorite pinball machine I've ever played. It's pretty simple as far as these things go. There's no elaborate toys on it or anything, but it's just like, it's pretty nice. So there's a shout out to the guys at Spooky Pinball. So there is a lot of potential for a real arcade revival, not just a talk about and financial people trying to get you excited about these things. So I think that the modern day episode is actually going to be pretty exciting too. to see like what's going on in the arcade today and where you can go, and it's not going to be a travel log or anything, but it just
maybe one day.
I did on our latest shoot. I filmed a vlog of kind of some of the preliminary shoot stuff that we were doing. So they were here in Chicago in June, and then we're going to come back here in September and finish up the shooting here, talk to the people who are in the local area, which are not that many anymore. The coin-op industry was centered in Chicago. I don't know if a lot of people know this. Even people in Chicago don't tend to know this, because none of the...
I'm a transplant, so I don't claim to really know.
Yeah, so it's an interesting opportunity to be here, and kind of soak up that legacy as little as there is still remaining, and just be able to communicate something that not a lot of people know. Chicago was the center of the meatpacking industry. That's what I learned in school, but also the center of the arcade industry.
Oh, definitely
Fascinating.
more interesting that way.
Lace, you got anything else you want to ask this man?
I don't.
This
Such
man.
a wealth of knowledge. Just kind of anything I wanted to
I
ask
just
was
splurge.
organically.
I just go on, and
No.
I'm somebody who, I've been described as an encyclopedia, and I don't know if that's I don't even know if that's accurate.
I
but-
would cling to that because I'm known as the person who never remembers anything, Lord, as much as she tries. As much as she tries, there's something wrong up here. There's something wrong, but it's okay. The pictures are still there in my head. I just may not know how to articulate it anymore. Old lady brain. Well, no, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is fascinating, very interesting. I'm sure Steven's going to have some links below, but is there anywhere we should follow you on the socials to keep apprised of all of these fun projects going on?
At GameResearch_E on Twitter. Also at Our Lost Arcade on Twitter, where I do some arcade deep dives as well that are not video game specific. And also I run the Arcade Dreams social media. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's at Arcade Dreams Doc or at Arcade Documentary. I cannot remember. But
That's
Arcade
fair.
Documentary.
Where did we put the dot? Yeah.
ArcadeDocumentary.com is where you can check all the things that are going on with Arcade Dreams. The history of how we play.wordpress.com, where I do my blog, which is like super nerdy. If you want to get a video game history, that's where you go. But if you want to have fun, don't go there. And
What if that is your fun?
I mean, it is for me. But
your
I'm
own, right?
I'm that strange man. Then GamingAlexandria.com if you want to find resources to the world of retro video games. And join our Discord, most especially. We're promoting this across like every podcast that we're on. We have to mention this Discord because it's a collection of so many people. You can find Norm there. You can find Hubs, founder of Gaming Alexandria there. Nate Lockhart of the Memory Machine. Kevin Bunch of Atari Archive. Kate Willert of A Critical Hit. Kelsey Lewin of Pink Gorilla Games and the Video Game History Foundation. I'm sure one of these names will maybe connect with somebody.
So
that's why. Yeah, we have a community there, and I encourage you guys to come along too if you're Discord people.
I do very little. I'm
They don't-
bad with
you know.
it. I'm one of those that I poke in once in a while and I'll say something and then I'll forget for like a month or two or something. I'm one of those.
And also can find me on the video game newsroom time machine, giving corrections to an American man who lives in Germany. And
Yeah.
I may seem like I'm a very busy person, but these things like all happen like once a month. So
That's still quite a bit, though. So hats off to you, man, for continuing to create, being interested, and giving us all of this fun stuff for us to be able to look back on and get it right.
Yep.
Right?
And I'm here if you ever need a little extra push on something. If you're like I'm not sure about this, then send me a question. And that goes to all the viewers. or listeners.
Go siblings, you hear that?
Yep, I'm just been the guy that people go to. I need to make my name for myself at some point. But in the meantime, I am just kind of a guy who can do little research projects in the meantime.
See, for every history piece that I do from here on out, I might just send it to you and be like, hey, read over this and tell me if it's accurate.
No, I'm totally...
Careful to open that door, man.
Totally down for that.
We'll have to join the Discord, too, because you can tell all your friends and be like, hey, go over here, and we'll get them all involved.
Yeah. Plenty of interesting people.
We gotta be a poacher,
and most of them
what
are
he's saying.
And many of them are still involved with, modern day gaming. We like games. They are interesting to us, and so I appreciate this podcast for not wasting the listeners' time, which I think many gaming podcasts do sometimes.
Oh well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We try to be entertaining and informative, if at all possible.
Yes.
As best I can, I like to have fun. And you get to hang out with your best friend. Life's good.
Hell yeah.
Life's good. Life is good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. And just in case we forgot to mention up at the top of the show, guys, that's our season. I don't know if I did that at the beginning of the show or not, but that is our show for the summer. So don't forget about us, though. You could still hit us up sometime during the little break over on Twitter at SuperMegaCrash, or still send an email over to supermegacrash@gmail.com. And you can find us on Instagram via the weekly icon art Steven puts his time and love into. Mm-hmm. The last one for the season. And you can, of course, even go to patreon.com/Pencil and Paper Productions to support the show. You can tell your friends to find the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network, or just search Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Amazon Music, and even youtube.com/Pencil and Paper Productions. Thank you so much for listening. I am Lacey Finley.
And I am Stephen White. Don't forget, for the next 5 weeks, we will have content for you.
Yes.
So
yes.
We're not going to forget about you.
But don't forget, siblings. Until then,
game on.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.